Very good. So what that enables is then they will see the animated files as we go through.
Okay.
Right. So the journey, I think we should probably recap because a lot of people want to be familiar with the megafauna extinction series. Um, Here's what happened. I was watching, let's say it was probably Discourses of an Alien Sky. I watched their different documentaries. One day I'm feeling very skeptical, so I get up, but curious. I get up and I go and I find two of the books that I have on my shelf for my ancient Kentucky and hidden Kentucky work, mostly hidden Kentucky work. And one is called The Rock Art of Kentucky, and the other one is Ice Age Peoples in North America by Tankersley, Dr. Tankersley. I open them up and I find plasma glyphs in the Rock Art of Kentucky, and I find a quote about Thomas Jefferson and the Big Bone Lick of Kentucky in the Ice Age of America. So right on my shelf, I had two Electric Universe treasure troves. So from there, I wanted to write a paper, and I started. And here's what happened was that I noticed in the plasma glyphs of Kentucky, they were calling the turkey tracks, or they were calling the Alwyn glyph turkey tracks.
Yes.
Okay, but they were all asymmetric. I went all the way up to Eagle Mound in Ohio and verified that the Alwyn sign in the center of the Eagle Mound is asymmetric. So I said, this is important key evidence. Also, of course, these so-called turkey glyphs were always by themselves. Okay,
Yeah.
and this is going to be relevant later, so I want people to really pay attention. They're going to have to picture in their head a a peace sign, um, and then picture that it's not exactly symmetric left to right. And that is really important key evidence. Okay, now that ended up becoming, I think, part two of the megafauna extinction paper. Well, all the other research that needed to be done necessitated so much work, as you know. It's sort of like what the guy from that wanted to do the King Arthur in Kentucky. He complained to me that there was too much information. I said, you have to understand that a lot of these men did this research between 20 and 30 years, some of them 40, 50 years. There's no way that you can look at the entire truth without it. And I told him the fact is, when you have all this together, it's going to make an alien show look like they were kindergartners with crayons, because the amount of research that has been done is overwhelming. And Adrian Gilbert said so in The Holy Kingdom. He said, Wilson and Blackett's research, there's just so much of it, but I'm trying to condense it down, which makes an unfortunately small product. So I ended up writing, let's say, 5 papers before I even wrote the megafauna extinction paper. So I took a break from writing that. Um, and the reason I wanted to write the megafauna extinction paper in the first place was that the quote from Thomas Jefferson, uh, of the Delaware chief, said that it was thunderbolts killed the megafauna.
Hmm.
And I have no reason to disbelieve the Delaware Indian chief, considering the evidence that the thunderbolts people are putting forward, and that's the hypothesis we were going with. So I went and I wrote on the origins of religions. I wrote plasma electromagnetic sky, and several other papers that were smaller, investments in Ragnarok, the Ferris wheels and the Dionysian irony, and several other very electric universe. Um, I opened the cosmology. I said, you know what? Here's the thing. When I did magnetic universe theory, I was like, we need to unify this. So we're going to call it plasma electromagnetism, and the plasma electromagnetic force, which in MIMS is just the F power, just for short. Um, and we're going to say extensions for everything that is not specifically the cosmology. So if it's not specifically talking about space or electromagnetism or plasma, then we're going to say it's an extension. So there comes the EPEMC. So I get back to the megafauna extinction paper, And it ends up being a 4-parter with a long introduction and then several appendices with all these extra plates. In that paper, I postulate 2 important things. One is that the Jovian octagons are related to the Hopewell octagons in Ohio. So I ended up doing that paper later and proved statistically that it mattered. And we've covered that. You're well aware that we definitely saw the North Pole of Jupiter.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I postulated in there, well, I predicted that there would be no Michigan strike and that the Carolina Bays had nothing to do with that. And then after that prediction, the Greenland stuff came out. So my paper was ahead of that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also in that paper covered a lot of electrogeology things, and I was showing off the big sink. And what happened is later on, I encountered more of Dr. Peratt's work, and his calculations were similar by only 1 order of magnitude difference to my calculations using classical electromagnetism in part 3 of that paper. And so I got very excited, and I wanted to look into this big sink, and it turns out, it was an octagon. So I wrote addendum 1. And in addendum 1, I show off the 56 crater big sink Paradian thunderbolt that's here in Kentucky, which goes along with what was said. Now, I want the audience to understand something. That thunderbolt is in the center of Kentucky, near to Versailles, Kentucky. It's between Lexington and Versailles. The Big Bone Lick of Kentucky is in Boone County, which is up near the river. So now, if it was only that thunderbolt, that means that the electricity reached from the bluegrass, from the center of the state, to an hour and a half away at Boone County, where the Big Bone Lick is. That's what that means. And that the entirety, because they used to have these things called buffalo trails, where the megafauna would wander along and make these kind of like wide highways. That's why the pioneers found it so easy to settle Kitiki.
Mm-hmm.
If this thunderbolt killed these megafauna all over the place, there would have been carcasses everywhere, mostly of, again, large species. And if people don't remember why, it's because the step potential increases the longer the distance between the feet. And that's in the first megafauna paper. So in the second megafauna paper, I cover the Thunderbolt strike site. There's a bunch of EM measurements of Mount Horeb sea hinge mound. And I think that it'd be nice if some people would get the same electromagnetometer and go do some of the sea hinges over in the British Isles, please. That would be really helpful. And I showed that conformed. You could simulate it with an antenna. And then I went over the work of there's another paper where they show the mega tsunamis being simulated coming off of the Greenland strike. So that was addendum 1. So what happened was I continued the research. Okay, there were some things about the Saturn theory that bothered me. There were some things that, if you watch enough Thunderbolts videos, you start to notice that they kind of go over the same things over and over again. And it's sort of like Ben Davidson, who I will gladly call out again because he's afraid to debate me. Once he decides that he knows something, he just goes down that rabbit hole, and then people develop their pet theories, and then they stick with that. Yeah. So I wanted to look into not just the polar configuration, but I really wanted to know, where is the planet Uranus in all this, and why are there problems with the Athena origin story? Because the Greeks don't have perfect memory. And the Mayans make it very clear that Venus came out of the planet Saturn. And as you know, as I've gone along writing this paper, the addendum 2, more information came out. We did the Inky in the World Order.
Yes.
That came out while I was going through this paper. It didn't come out, but it came to my awareness, let's say. Okay. So the universe has just kept providing me more information as I'm going along. But what excited me was the this is kind of ironic because he's an alien into aliens, the Michael Tellinger. Mm-hmm. So he's going on about Baconi and Maputo. Mm-hmm. I put out The Secret of Baconi and The Secret Held at Maputo, something like that. And I start to notice that this cosmic egg shape is showing up everywhere. And this cosmic egg is, of course, in the Chinese myths, and it's all over the world, and its features are the same. While I'm doing the research, the Nazca Mean Cat comes out, and there it is again, and it's giving birth to Neptune. So I'm starting to get confirmation. So I go from analyzing, I did the same thing. I used calipers and measured, and you could see the data. So if you go to the table of contents here, just scroll down. You can see here, there's site data, the percentage differences, the site features. So the site features shows what kinds of features are at the different sites based on, like the hatching in the egg and the flat bud, that kind of stuff. Listen, the tables are boring to look at. It's much better for people when they get the chance, if they just use the link that's at the very beginning of all the tables that goes to the spreadsheet. It'll be a lot easier on them. It's only put in the paper for posterity. It's much easier to look at it through the Google Sheets. But so I stepped through, and here's what happened. To make a long thing short, because it's a lot of data tables. What happens is there start forming what you would call resonances. And so I just did a cross comparison of those versus known diameter ratios. And for the audience doesn't remember, from the Ramsey-Soleil work, and also from the Jovian octagons, but mostly from the Ramsey-Soleil. And it's coming key, by the way. I started working on the Costa Rican spheres, and already really good results for the Costa Rican spheres. It's the equatorial diameter divided by the polar diameter, and that gives you a ratio. Doesn't matter units. So if people want to measure images, they want to use millimeters, they want to use inches. I used calipers, which are in inch measurements in my case, and I would get these really precise measurements, and then you compare those, and you end up getting basically, you can get percentage differences, and you can get standard deviations, and you can start looking for impossibilities, such as at the Jovian octagons. The Jovian octagons is the most key thing that we have. The second most key thing being a Palladian thunderbolt strike site with 56 craters in an octagon, and a story from the Delaware telling a trustworthy source of what he heard, Thomas Jefferson, who's the first vertebrate archaeologist in America. All this stuff, all this evidence comes together in one nice picture. So what does this cosmic egg story tell us? When we look at places like Maputo, Baconi, Sardinia, when we look in on some of the rock art in India, and now the Colombian rock art. That's another thing that came out in between the time that I was working with, that I did the show with Gareth in private. The 8 miles of rock art came out, and all this stuff started to line up with Göbekli Tepe. And that's what's really, really key about this work, is that so many different places in the world have these cosmic eggs. Now, here's where it gets really fun. The enclosure D, so here you can see the egg. No, not that one. No.
Let me just put cosmic egg.
No. You don't need to put cosmic. You just put 8 mile. No, you're getting, that's like Utah or something.
No, Colombian. Okay. I put Colombian in there. I don't know why it didn't come out.
No, go back to the pictures.
Okay.
Okay, just hit the little X on that. Hit the little X. No, hit the little X. The gray X.
The gray X?
Yeah, right here on the right here. Yeah. Okay. Scroll down. Getting lots.
That's interesting.
You have the Columbia. Did you put 8 mile?
Where do you want me to put that? After rock art?
Colombian, like 8 mile rock art. Yeah. It won't matter. It doesn't. Yeah. I don't care. Well, there's one. So you can see the flare god. Get rid of that. Yeah, that's just in the way.
Okay.
There, right there on the right, you see the big animal?
Yeah.
Okay, that's the flare god. Okay, and look at Jupiter popping up on the right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's showing the cosmic egg. So this is in the latter stage. And if you did the diameter ratio on this, it's probably approaching 2. And so there are repetitions at, of course, 1.21 to 1.23 is where the original star was in its equatorial diameters, in its diameter ratio. Then 1.4, 1.5, 1.7, 2, like that. So that's how the spreadsheet, and I compared how the differences were and started to notice that there were repetitions. Then I compared those percentage differences with known diameter ratios for the gas giants and the rocky bodies. Unfortunately for the rocky bodies, they're all typically 1-to-1. So you can't really differentiate most rock art from the sun or the rocky bodies. That's where the Costa Rican spheres are going to become much more important, because you can see the physical size of them. So if they're very large and they're 1-to-1, probably the sun. And if they're smaller, then they're probably a gas giant, or potentially the rocky bodies. And that work is going to happen throughout September. My kids are actually helping me with that.
Good.
So when you start seeing these eggs have the same features, this is not the one we want, though. Hit the X on that, and we're going to find the one that we really want to see in Colombia. Let's scroll back up again. There's one that's usually in the news reports. No, scroll down. I don't know. You get different results than I do, I guess.
I think I'm on Yahoo. You want me to go to Google?
Oh, I'm usually on Google Images.
All right.
I've lost the share screen there, Greg.
Oh, I did? Okay.
I see.
Okay.
I don't know. I see.
Yeah, it's frozen.
So Colombian, I got to type it in again. I'll fix that in a second here. Colombian 8-mile rock art.
Yeah.
I just prefer Yahoo. I thought that
And,
I always thought they had better stuff. Google pisses me off. All right, now I'm going to fix the screen issue.
Okay.
Just a second. Let me fix the screen here.
Sure.
I'm going to stop sharing and then do it over again. All right. Share screen. Desktop. That way I've always whatever I'm on. And there. Now you guys should see it fine. You guys there?
Black screen at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just.
You got a screen or a black screen, Ramon?
Oh no, I see it. I see it. Okay. Scroll down.
Hold on. He doesn't have. I got to get him in here. Let's see. I'll do it one more time, Andy. All right.
Yeah, that's all right.
Stop sharing, and then I got you two, right? Or wait a minute. Where's Ramon?
I'm here.
No, I mean not Ramon. I'm here. Where's Andy? It says you're in here. Andy, are you here? I only see me and Ramon.
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I'm on you.
That's
right. Okay. That's because I'm on you. All right. Share screen, and I always do the desktop because that's the one whatever I'm looking at. Okay, and start sharing. Now, do you see it, Andy?
Nah, it's not going to show me. Doesn't matter. We'll just keep going.
That sucks. I wonder why. What the hell?
As long as I can see to it.
Wait a minute. Maybe if I take my thing off of you and just go into the group. No, it's not doing it either.
Yeah, that would be better.
Let me call you.
Let me call you. Hold on.
Hold on.
We still haven't got that original call, have we?
I'm going to call you. Maybe I have to because it doesn't show me that you're in this call. Where are you at, Andy Davies?
Shows me.
Well, he's
It
definitely.
shows me, Ramon, and Greg.
Yeah, it shows.
Oh, okay.
That should be from our original call.
Oh, well, yeah. See, it's
Well, we might
asking me to
switch.
join this call, so I'm in this call right here with YouTube. So you
Well,
should
I
be able to
still,
see.
I,
Let everyone know they're being recorded. Yes.
yeah,
Okay.
I'm
And you
still on.
can't see Google right now, Andy? I don't know why.
Nah,
All right.
nah.
Well, go ahead. Proceed, Ramon. We'll.
Okay. Well, so just scroll down. Let's
That
see if
is
we
amazing. Somebody did all that? What did they have? A
8
freaking
miles.
ladder?
And they obviously were not doing it just out of the, for a bunch of fun. Scroll down. Yeah, you tend to get a little different results, although it's hard to see. Okay, right
That's
there,
interesting.
right there
Right
to the
there?
left of the one you're on. To the left. Yep, there it is.
Yes, I've seen this
Yeah.
before with you.
Yes, but the key is, and this is the fun part, the egg is flipped as compared to at Göbekli Tepe and in Africa,
Hmm.
which means one of two things. Either it's only a plasma uh, image that is being seen, or more likely, they took this image at a different time of the orbit. So we now would have two pictures of the orbit. One, the picture of whenever they made Göbekli Tepe enclosure D, in which the hatching portion, you see, zoom into that, make that big.
How do I do that?
Below it, it said
You
when
plus
you click it, it says view in, or you can right click it and say open image in new tab. Usually
Right,
you can
right click.
should be able to open the image in new tab somewhere.
Doesn't, yeah, it doesn't show me. Just a minute.
I've
Let's
never
do it. Let's do it this way.
have more tech troubles than anybody I know, by the way. Oh, there.
Here it is. Here.
This is it. Okay, there you go. Open
Open,
image in
open link, but I don't see
no,
image.
down below. It says open image in new tab.
Yes, you're right. Okay.
Okay, and then go click on it,
Ah, there we go.
and then Control Plus, and you can zoom in.
Yeah, I
This is
think I.
going to be really
Yeah.
key because we have the animal, but this Control Plus as much as you can.
Yeah. Okay, hold
Okay,
on. Control.
plus,
Yeah.
and then Control Plus, and yep, a little bit more.
A little bit
Let's get
more.
in there. Let's get in there so people can really see this. Now scroll to the right, of course, to the cosmic egg.
Oh, wait a minute. I got to get the little scroll bar here.
All right, now look here. What do we see? Number one, anode tufting on the side where the hatching is. And we know from Project Sapphire that the anode does that when either when they're first starting up or when the electrical power drops too low again. And then we see the banding that is clearly Jupiter coming out. So we know the star was about the size of Jupiter in terms of polar diameters, but it was wider in equatorial diameter. It started off at 1.23, and then it got wider and wider. You can see there to the left. Then they recorded its flare and the explosion, and then you can see now that what looks like a tail or back legs actually is a repeated motif at Göbekli Tepe. All the animals on the glyphs, if you look, and also the enclosure, the so-called entrances to the enclosure D, have a narrow entryway like this. And then there's a specific shape at Göbekli Tepe that's repeated on all the animals. This means they're not animals. They are pieces of the star's behavior. Whether
Say
it's,
that again. You fuzzed out.
they are phases of the star's behavior.
Okay.
And the bending, and people can individually compare. It's in my papers, but you can individually compare if you like. It's in the Secret at Maputo paper.
Okay.
These this little pathway that looks that people go between is clearly ejected material, and that is what is so interesting about this. It looks like the star is under electrical stress and is bifurcating,
Yeah.
But and this is the best. This is the best evidence in the entire world, right here. And the not the new Nazca meme cat down in South America, or well, further in South America. They're both in South America, but that one being down in the Peruvian area, whereas this is in Colombia.
Mhm.
And there's no proof that the two cultures were in cahoots or anything, but clearly they were seeing the same event. And this is one of the key pieces of evidence. The other thing that came out of this early stages of this research when I was looking at Göbekli Tepe was that the vulture stone. So let's pull up the vulture stone from enclosure D. Well, pull up both the vulture stone and the enclosure D.
Okay, hold on. I gotta go. I gotta get out of this. Now, which one now? Pull up what?
The vulture stone and pull up enclosure D.
From your paper or from
I mean, it'd be
Google?
you might be able to find it. I would just Google it. It'd be
Okay.
quicker for finding
I
overall.
was gonna give Andy that picture so he could look at it. Okay, so type what now?
So you need Göbekli Tepe enclosure D. I'm trying to lead you guys through how this paper happened before we get into the cool animations. Does it help, by the way, guys, to get the background on the megafauna extinction series? Was that helpful? It was a bit long-winded.
Yes, of course it was. Yes.
Okay,
No,
so
no, no, no. It's,
that black and white or that color picture with the words on it, either one will work. I mean, not well, yeah, of course the stone, but I'm talking about for enclosure D.
Oh, well, I don't
So
know
the
the
one
difference. You
words,
gotta teach me.
well, so you scrolled up, go back down.
How do I
So
get
either
rid of?
that
How
black
do I
and
get
white,
rid of? Okay.
either that black and either that black and white or the picture with all the words on it. Either one.
This one?
No, yeah, no, the enclosures. That's the vulture stones. Yeah. So
Okay.
either again, and pick either one. I don't care which one. Okay, so yeah, we'll want to have that one, and then yeah, pick out any of the vulture stone ones. Particularly the ones where it's a little more zoomed in. So like the one below, probably that, and you want it to be a little brightly colored.
This one looks good, black and white. No, this one.
I would say the brightly colored one on the left over here. Yeah,
Right here.
that one. Yeah, as long as it's high res. Yes, 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 perfect.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to show you because a lot of people are starting to get into these weird quackpot theories that Graham Hancock and them are putting out. So we're going to step through this. So let's start with the enclosure. First of all, look at enclosure D. You can see clearly the cosmic egg motif. You can see the hatching on the upper left. You can see the flat side and the flat butt and the extension. And then it splits, and the people are showing us that it's splitting into two large bodies. You have Jupiter on the right, and you have Saturn, proto-Saturn in this case, on the left, and then it's birthing Neptune down below it. That is repeated all the way over in Peru. So this is basically 12,000 miles, let's call it, apart. Now the key is that vulture stone, look at where vulture stone is. It is in the hatching. You see that? In Göbekli, in the enclosure D.
Mm-hmm. The vulture stone. Yeah.
It's located at the hatching.
Mm-hmm. It
You
is.
see that?
Yes.
Very good. So go to the vulture stone. This is, I'm going to decode something, you guys. Zoom in. This is what nobody does. Zoom in to the vulture itself. All the way in. Yep, keep going.
Well, just a
I
second.
love
Here.
handbag lifts. By the way, I'm working on the handbag lifts, and look there. Do you see the legs? Look at the two pathway legs. Scroll down a little bit. See the two pathway legs? See the
Yes.
bentness?
Yes.
That's repeated. But now go back up a little bit. Right there. Look at the ball the bird is holding. It has a hatching on it. This is the stone at enclosure D. And now look at the so-called vulture. You can tell that is not a typical. No, look at the head of the vulture. That is not an actual bird. It has hatching and it has the extended material that's coming out of it, and it has a piece in the center, which may or may not be Mars. It's not exactly clear. But the point is that it is they're depicting the explosiveness of the star and the birth of another star,
Mm-hmm.
and that it's about to give birth too.
Mm-hmm.
And this information is encoded right there in front of us, but nobody's noticing it because they want to look for sacred geometry. Now, I'm
Yeah.
all about maths, but let's not jump the gun when they show features like that, and they clearly had it as an artistic style. I mean, you can see the feather. There was some sort of sophisticated religion happening here, but they're also recording exact information. And this happens also in Egypt, and it happens at other sites too. And you can measure these repeated motifs. Okay? All right. So from there,
Yes, yes.
I began analyzing all the different features as I showed you in the data tables. I did the diameter ratios. I put all that together, and then I set a lot of it aside, and I started to really think about what would happen as the Chinese say when one separates to two, and the two becomes the three, and the three becomes the 10,000 things. And then I got into, well, I was listening to the science fiction book, The Three Body Problem,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned a little bit more about the three body problem, and it is a unstable solution. Now, there are a few temporary solutions to a three body problem. And if you recall, I tell you what, to make people's lives easier, pull up the do an image search for the Eagle Mound LiDAR.
Okay.
Eagle Mound, for people, if they don't know, it's in Ohio, in Newark, Ohio. And it's the site of Newark, Ohio, has the largest earthworks in the world.
Is that the right spelling?
Eagle Mound
Lima.
LiDAR? Yeah, I think that's right.
LIMAR. Okay.
No, LiDAR.
Oh, LIDAR.
Yeah.
Okay. Eagle Mound LIDAR. Oh, yeah.
And try and find the one that is, see, that one's not vertical. You need an orthogonal view of the Eagle Mound. There should be one. There's one. That's not bad.
Right here?
Yeah. Now, from the outset, people are going to say, "Oh, it looks." See, if you go to Eagle Mound, they have some cockamamie story of a little hut on top of it, and maybe there was a hut. Zoom in to the Eagle Mound itself.
Okay.
Control plus it. Yeah. You can see it's not symmetric. You see that? You see that one branch comes down more southerly than the other branch?
Right, yes.
That is a continuous motif throughout the entire Ohio River Valley, and I would wager if I studied the Celtic and the British Isles, I'd say that the Alwins tend to be like that over there too, if they were before the age of Christ. If they're BC, I'm going to bet that they tend to be asymmetric. Now, the reason why I bring this up is when the system broke down, it would have entered into, at first, let's say that your Earth, you're going around the star. When it first bifurcates, you're still going around both of them. But as their charge separation increases and the plasma double layers
There it
are
is.
now putting pressure upon the proto-Saturn and Jupiter, electrically stressing proto-Saturn, or perhaps it got further out and it got too close to the sun, and so it got extra electrical stressing that Jupiter didn't have. It isn't really clear to us. But whatever, they are now far enough apart, you're going to start to orbit only one. In this case, I think it happened to be proto-Saturn. It may have been also that Neptune was born before we had to choose between the two. But at that stage, when Neptune is born, the system entered a three-body problem. And that three-body problem would have been absolutely chaotic. Now, according to the Ramayana, the blue one-eyed necklace and headless monster was calmed by Rama and Lakshmana, and then it became a god. Now, clearly, at some point, the sea god was Lord for a brief amount of time. I have no idea how long we would have orbited Neptune, but it must have been long enough in that era to cause man to need to go underground.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm postulating potentially 1,500 to 3,000 years. For whatever reason, they stopped doing the work at Göbekli Tepe. They went underground, and then nobody in the world had agriculture till Sumer.
Mm-hmm.
Now, 7,000 years ago in Kentucky, they began growing forests to make nuts and such. But that's not the same as having real agriculture, because they were living in caves while they did that.
Mm-hmm.
So they would grow the trees, then they would come out of the caves and they would farm the trees, and they would go back and live in the caves. And that's what Chiliki means, is the people of the caves.
Feed on acorns.
Well, not just acorns, though. Kentucky has a lot of really it's an extremely biodiverse environment.
Yes.
So this environment where we're going around the star, we're not getting a lot of information from it, but we do know that there was a blue god who could wield the trident.
Mm.
It wasn't the Lord. It was just Lord for a time.
Yeah.
In that time period when Proto-Saturn birthed not just Neptune, but apparently Venus and some other bodies, or released them, let's say, maybe it was a matter of liquid metallic hydrogen lattice exclusion, as Robitaille says. It could have been an electrical stressor event. We don't really know, honestly. But in that time, when mankind came out, now you had this Alwyn. It was a three-body solution. It's called a Lagrange solution. And you can see that the ancients wanted to record the plasma streaming between them, and most of us know this as Yggdrasil,
Mm-hmm.
the tree of life.
Mm-hmm.
And this solution is the golden era of the gods.
Makes sense.
Yes. So let's go to the paper and look at some of these animations.
Okay.
No, go to the Google Doc.
Oh, Google?
No, the Google Doc. No, the blue one. No, the blue one. All right. So scroll. Whoa. No, go
This
back.
one.
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So scroll down. Let's just go back like Deppy again, showing off. Go back with Deppy. It's the same stuff
here
that
we
we.
go. Yeah.
It's the same stuff.
Keep scrolling.
Yeah. Oh, it's all anime. There's the Nazca meme cat. There's the Rama and Lakshmana fighting the blue one-eyed monster.
Who
Okay.
would that be?
That's Neptune.
Mm-hmm.
Before the Kabanda or Cyclops, before it's calmed. Remember that the Cyclops is the child of who? Poseidon.
Mm-hmm.
So that the motif, the Greeks didn't remember it correctly. They have it backwards. Poseidon is the child of the Cyclops.
Okay.
Down. Yep. The Hindus had it correct. These are just data tables, so you can get well past all that. Probably go to like page 37 or so. Again, people could use the Google spreadsheets when they want to review the tables. Keep going.
Keep going. Okay.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. This is where the scans are going to go. I finally found the papers that I've got to scan them.
I thought it was my computer.
No. Here we go. So
Ah.
this is the first separation. And you can see when you have two bodies that are not the same mass, they're not going to orbit in a just an easy manner here.
Right.
They're going to swing about because they were just separated. And bear in
Who
mind,
are the two orbs?
well, this would be Jupiter and This would probably be Saturn after ejecting or beginning to eject. But you're missing the point. The point is that you're going through this system. You are around these two, and your planet is now going to what? Accelerate. At times, it's going to accelerate and whip through as it tries to keep up with these two bodies that are changing. That's going to cause massive climate change. So you combine that with the flares, and not only do you have sufficient source for your thunder, because remember in the first megafauna extinction paper, I said you need between 6,000 and 12,000 of these to boil Antarctica, which is what we're trying to do to get rid of all of the ice. So you have to first cause the ice, then you have to get rid of the ice. That's a lot of energy. You're not going to get that from a comet, period. So Zamora is wrong. There is no doubt in the world that he is wrong. The natives say he's wrong. The Hindus say he's wrong. The Greeks and the Egyptian priests say he's wrong. And the data says Zamora is wrong. And I don't want to hear anybody try to convince me that ice can make the Carolina Bays. I've already proven that. The vectors of the Carolina Bays don't line up to Michigan. They line up to 3 different places in the world. And you can look at the LIDAR of the Carolina Bays. They're not even the same age. Zamora is wrong, and he'll be wrong from now till the end of time.
That's exactly what Velikovsky says.
Yes. And it doesn't matter if the cohort that is leading the alt stream down this primrose path wants it to be about a comet. It ain't about a comet. Now, there were strikes, but those strikes, those bolide strikes, were also electrical events too. We can see that from the Hudson Bays. It's not the point of this paper, but it is in the megafauna, the addendum 1. Addendum 1, I show, how these Hudson Bay craters definitely show signs of electrical event. But the point is, you need an energy equivalent to create the ice age and then to get rid of the ice age in only 2,500 or so years. And you have to begin the desertification of the Sahara. You have to dump sand all over the world. And you've got to cause the sinking of multiple land masses. This is not caused by a comet, period. They're not even in the same. They're not even in the same within one magnitude. So that cometary event that they're talking about is a category maybe 5 or 6 kind of cataclysm. We're talking about a category 7, probably 8 level, depending on how you look at it. If you have a comet of that kind of power, everything's going extinct, not just megafauna. It has to be selective enough to target just the megafauna and a few weak, species, right?
Yep.
The dodo survived that.
The ones that were too big to take cover.
Yeah, well, exactly. Not only that, but they could, they could fly, they could get in trees. They weren't getting fried. Okay, now scroll down. So this key thing here is about the acceleration. So, there could have been a potentially short-lived period of this is a solution. The problem with this solution to the 3-body is that these are the same mass. But I do think that there was something like this to inspire the analemma, and I think it was short-lived. I don't think it was symmetric as being shown here, but scroll down. I think that more likely they entered into that scroll down just a little bit. I think they entered into this triquetra arrangement. And I think that the triquetra was visible. I don't think that it was just they saw the 3 powers, the 3-faced god, and said, well, wouldn't it be cool if they went around each other in this cute Celtic manner? I think that they actually did have that solution for a little bit. Scroll down. And that would just be another example of the chaos that can happen in a 3-body. I think the next one really illustrates the point, though, because you have 2 masses that are similar and then a smaller one. So remember that the fear here is that that the star was spiraling towards Apollo or Sol, and that as it got closer, the heliosphere electrically stressed Shamash. and then caused them to separate. So now the three are moving around together in a system. They're trying to establish a unity and to stay in cohesion without, of course, they must not have destroyed each other because we have them all. And in such an environment, anytime they pass each other, there could have been thunderbolts.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And eventually, enough of those thunderbolts and those battles and those sexual unions, those intrigues, those betrayals of the brothers, etc., you finally exchange enough charge and there's enough plasma streaming between them to get your Lagrange solution, which is the next one. And boom. Now you have the rotating Lagrange solution. The difference being it was asymmetrical and not perfectly symmetrical. But the mass must have been the equivalent. The streaming mass between them and the amount of charge flowing must have been sufficient to enable it to temporarily last. Now, the question we don't know here is, was it that Uranus, being a planet Hades, God came in and disturbed this, or was he part of the solution? As according to the Greeks, basically Hades says, "I'm equal to Zeus, and we occupy different places in the sky, and we are of a different mind." Well, of a different mind implies that it came from the sun, but that would explain the 105-degree tilt angle on planet Uranus. But the question is, could it have popped out? And I'll tell you right away, the data in those tables that I did do not find any evidence of any of the sites around the world that I have found of Uranus arriving. None of the polar diameter ratios come out to show Uranus, and it is not a 1-to-1. It's close to 1-to-1 though. It's like 1.01.
Ramon, hold on 1 second. It's
go ahead.
bugging me. Something's bugging me. Andy.
Yeah, I've got you, Greg. I've got everything.
I'm gonna call. Why don't
I've
you
got that
hang
screen
up?
back.
Oh, you got
I've
it.
got that screen back.
Oh, okay. Never mind then. Go ahead.
No, keep going. And I can follow everybody's paper too.
So this solution here is, in my opinion, the actual polar configuration.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say that, and I'm not just here to knock, the work of Talbot or Eve Cochran or anybody like that. When I look at the Kentucky rock art, we have a specific glyph that does show a polar configuration, but there's no proof that it is a long-standing polar configuration. It is a hexagon that has been removed from the rock, leaving a bas relief of a single hemisphere. And I do believe it's Mars is that single hemisphere. It does not show a double hemisphere. There is no evidence that I have found that Venus was in any ever polar configuration. I have not found that.
Ted thinks the same thing. You guys were on the same page, just coming from different directions.
That doesn't discount, because you can see in my EPMC products that I have a Saturn myth spreadsheet. Okay, it is there. It is part, but it is only a small part of the entire story. The Saturn myth and the Venus myth is a small part of the entire story of the evolution of the gods. Okay, scroll down.
I agree.
So this event could not last. Either Uranus came through and messed it up, or the charge continued to fall apart. There's the LiDAR that I was looking for.
Yes, yes.
The charge continued until the system became too equalized, and then another configuration formed that was just us rocky bodies headed towards the sun. We were then taken by the sun. And this is all just going into the Raquette, looking at the fluvial flow across Africa. Of course, I haven't gotten around to writing Ashes of Atlantis, which is the continuation
I'd
of
like
that.
to hear that, yeah.
Yeah, I meant to write it ever since Jimmy's false video has come out about the Rakat, but I just haven't had time to write it. But what I have, and this is neat, since I put out this paper, looking at the Costa Rican spheres, I have found a minor evidence for Triton. And as we know, Triton has a retrograde orbit. And why is that
Yes.
important? Quite possibly Triton is Hephaestus or Hoder. Because, Hoder was banished for the death of Balder.
Yeah.
Very interesting stuff. And one of the spheres that I'm looking at doesn't have any match to any of the others, which means it could be Metis/Balder. And it could be the one that was destroyed to make the Trojan asteroids. So that's all in some of the newer work that I've been doing. This is not the newer work. I've already moved on.
Holder.
This just got released, and yet I've already moved on. So in this paper, I just go through more of the motifs, evidence.
Greg, look at the out-of-date work.
What's that?
Ramon's given us out-of-date work.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'm giving you out-of-date work. Yes, it's a whole month old.
Holder. Holder. Was his first name Umbrella? Umbrella Holder?
Hoder.
Yeah.
This is another mound that shows the more complete. So the Eagle Mound doesn't show the complete. This is the one that shows the complete. It shows the entire arrangement. This is the Alligator Mound. It's also in Ohio. And it shows the what's called the fifth leg or the exploding back motif. It shows up in the deer around the world and the zebras, everything.
Where is that in Ohio?
I have to look that up. I don't recall exactly
I might
where.
want to go see that this fall.
And but you could see that the arrangement clearly had more bodies than the main Alwyn glyph in the arrangement. It's one of the most amazing ones. You'd have to look it up to see if it's even still existent. A lot of these are gone now. This is from the Squire Davis text. Okay, let's go down. And in Kentucky, they call that the five-legged turtle. And here you see on this, you see the pig motif. You see that it still has the same egg shape. It has the same leg protrusion. It has the vulture extension. You notice that the mouth is down in the southern half of it. You can see above it, they're showing you it is not a pig. They're showing you that it is this evolving bird formation of the star, and it evolves and boom, turns into a pig.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but they're talking about the same star. Let's scroll down. This is a different series. So this is the lion motif, which we then see in India. The lion, which becomes Shiva and is devouring a god. And of course, we know the story of Cronus eating its children.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But now look at that lion. Look at that lion. Look at how the belly is becoming distended. It's about to explode. And you can see that the way they've made this delay, we must have been on the other side of the star at this point. So this is getting well beyond the diameter ratio of 2, where the star is ready to explode, as Eduardo Cardona pointed out. It was going to flare. So this is your so-called micronova. Listen up, all you suspicious observers, all you Ben Davidson people. There was no micronova. It was the death of another star. It was our original star. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Scroll down.
I think too. Yeah, I never believed the
micronova stuff is all wrong. Yeah. And ironically, though, you can go through Vogt's videos at Diehold, and he'll present tons of information that supports this theory, because he'll give quotes from the mythologists and translations, and all of them fit this theory. But you can't get this data to fit into his theory. All right, so I'm just showing here the hexagon and how after November 2019, Jupiter's southern pole suddenly reconnected, and this vortex in the middle, the size of the United States, suddenly appeared. We saw that with our satellites happen.
Mm-hmm.
And right around the same time that the elite decided to have their pandemic. So isn't that a little bit convenient? Scroll down.
Yes.
I'm not saying it's the worship of Set. I'm just letting you know that's what happened. So scroll down. I'm not going to talk about Babylon tonight. I can't recall what else is in this paper. I've moved on, So This is me showing the size of Shoemaker Levy 9's impact and how
Mhm.
important electrocomets are. So if we had an energy, a blast from a comet of the size that Zamora is wanting, it would have wiped out the Earth. Period. It didn't happen.